When I'm talking about mental health, I'm talking about three things: thoughts, feelings, and behavior. If any one of those is having a challenge, guess what? You have a mental health challenge. The word stigma, according to Webster's dictionary, is defined as a mark of shame, but it's also about thoughts, feelings, and behavior. You see, thoughts are stereotypes. You might have a stereotype in your mind of what someone with mental health challenges looks like. Feelings are prejudice. Maybe you get uncomfortable every time I walk in the room because you know that I struggle with mental health challenges. And behavior is discrimination. Someone is not able to participate in a sport because they don't want him on the team because they think he's got quote-unquote issues. What happens is this stigma affects people in all different ways in all areas of life, and people are not getting the help that they desperately need for their mental health challenge.
Hey, Mike. I wanted to come in earlier to interject on something. You do a really powerful thing in defining stigma, and I think it's important for your presentation to know what this means, this phrase, right? I think it could add an element of even more power, more strength if you use a source that isn't Webster. And the reason why is because Webster is sort of like a go-to, sort of like the everyday man's, what am I going to use to define something? We use the thesaurus, the dictionary, right?
So I should use Google.
Well, which is like the modern man's new dictionary. And so maybe you want to look at sort of a medical reference,
okay.
Right?
Medical journal.
A medical journal, a specific psychiatrist, a renowned psychiatrist.
The DSM-5, I could totally, well, I don't know if it's in there, but I could.
Depending on who your audience is,
Yeah.
right? If it's a bunch of clinicians, they'll appreciate that.
They will.
Right? But if it's not a bunch of clinicians, and maybe it's just a lay audience or community members, they might appreciate some sort of literary reference, right? Maybe in a book that we're all familiar with, or a movie we're all familiar with, or some sort of pop cultural idea that we all get a sense from, right?
Well, you know, one of the analogies that I used to use, and I forgot how I used to say it, as we're doing this in the camera here, but Dr. Bruce Banner lived a quiet life. He was a quiet, humble physicist, I think, who just lived his life. And when he became triggered, would turn into this big green monster like thing called the Incredible Hulk, who was not necessarily good, not necessarily evil, but very destructive. And we all identify with the Hulk at some level. In fact, in the 1970s, there was a television show starring Lou Ferrigno. It was very popular, and I really believe it was popular because many people identified with this idea of you have to live your life and try to keep it all together, but we all have a Hulk inside of us that can explode. Yet at the same time, if we saw someone acting like the Hulk on the streets, we want that person away, locked up. They're a problem. And that is an example of stigma. Do you think I could use something like that?
Well, I think it certainly sort of adheres to this general theme that runs throughout your presentation, right? This superhero theme. It's a huge part of your book,
Yeah.
right? So use it, right? But don't overuse it.
Don't
right?
overuse it,
Don't
okay.
overuse it because we don't want your presentation to be based in fictional material, right? Right? Comic books they're entertainment, they're fiction, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's power because we all know who the Hulk is. We all know who Spider-Man is. We all know these people. So that's what I mean by when you're defining these really important terms, okay? Using the dictionary or the thesaurus is sort of K through 12 version of doing that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And now there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that, but you know, I think your audience, depending on who it is, right?
Yeah.
I think they'll appreciate sort of a richer reference.
I like that. Thank you. Okay.
Sure, think about that.
Cool. All right.